Wabash Carnegie Public Library Oral History Program, April 14th, 1973. Well, I want to start off here, and I'm going to ask you first your full name.
Mary Ellen Shipnes.
Mary Ellen, when and where were you born?
1908 in Wabash, Indiana.
And who were your parents?
May Goode McNamee and Henry Hughes McNamee.
Give me some background now on your mother's family as you can remember.
My mother's mother and father, named Pet and Macy Goode, died when my mother was 3. She had one sister several years older and one brother younger. And they were all taken by her aunt, the sister of her mother, Mrs. Graydon, May Graydon, who lived with her father, Albert Pauling, at 414 North Wabash Street, where Graydon Walter now lives. This great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, Mr. Pauling, walked to Wabash from Pennsylvania. He lived in Valley Forge, and he was had a grist mill, and he wanted to seek his fortunes in a further field, and walked all the way to Indiana with using the savings that he had in his pocket. And one of these days, when he was resting after having his lunch, he bought his food and paid for his lodging as he came on. He was sleeping under a tree, and someone stole his watch. But other than that, he arrived with still a little money. And he eventually went back to Pennsylvania, walking again, married his sweetheart of childhood days, and bought a horse and saddle, and brought his bride on a horse back again to Wabash. Isn't that something? And he lived to be 99. And he was the head of this household, which consisted of his daughter, who had 2 daughters, whose husband died at an early age, and these 3 children that they took in, the 3 good children, who were his grandchildren.
So that was one of those would have been your mother then?
Right.
One of the 3 that she took.
That's right.
And how did she fit it? The oldest, middle, or the youngest?
She was the middle.
And so then she grew up right here in Wabash?
She grew up right here in Wabash.
And how about your father's side of the family?
Well, my father's family lived in Wabash for many years. His grandfather, Thomas McNamee, started the Wabash National Bank. He married a woman from the eastern shore of Maryland, Mary Armstrong, and they had 3 boys. My father was the middle one, and he built this house here on Hill Street. The oldest brother, the oldest McNamee boy, never married, and he stayed with the bank. The second one was with the Ford meter box, and my father was in the bank for a while, and then became a partner of Mark Honeywell and Joseph Teague and the Honeywell Heating Specialty Company.
Before we get on to your father's business career, tell us about Grandpa's house at the corner of Hill and Pass.
Well, that's quite a house. It had a turret, which was very spooky for children, with the tallest stairways going up to the second floor and to the turret that you ever walked. It had the first bathtub in Wabash, and it was a tin affair enclosed in wood on a pedestal, rather like on a stage. It's quite dramatic. And there was a railroad track in back of this house, which seemed to make life quite exciting when the trains went by. We would think now it was unbearable, but this was quite exciting.
Where were you living then?
On Wabash Street.
Wabash.
That house was built by my father, bought by the Fords, and a lovely colonial house, which was a wonderful house for children.
That would be the third house on the west side of the street, north of Stittsville.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Presently the home of Old Fort. Your father's business career, explain what he did and how he got his start and so forth in business and finance.
Well, I think he found that he did not care for the banking business, and he had an older brother who did, and he became interested in this business of the Honeywell company, in that it was something new and venturesome, and Mark Honeywell was the inventor, and he had great ideas. Some of them worked and some of them didn't. And the three men, Joseph Teague and Mark Honeywell and my father, worked together for a good many years. And Willard Huff was a younger member who became who went later with Mark Honeywell when they left here to go to Minneapolis. It was my father made an unfortunate decision when Mark Honeywell decided, when he perfected this heating
Thermostat.
the thermostat.
Yes.
Mr. Teague and my father decided that they couldn't go along with it. There had been other inventions which had not worked, and this was a great tragedy for Mr. Teague and my father, because this became the most important decision in the whole history of the company.
Was your father an engineer by training?
No, he wasn't. He was a very artistic type of person, and he was affected very much by the Depression with the Honeywell decision, and the bank had a failure in the Depression, and it was during that time the stockholders, of course, were held responsible for any bank failure. Now such a thing doesn't happen, as you probably know.
Right.
So my father went to Indianapolis and went into the building business, real estate and building business.
What year would that have been?
Well, let's see, that would have been about 1930, probably. It was just about the height of the Depression.
Did you say that he regretted this decision of leaving the Honeywell?
Well, I'm sure he did, because he was very philosophical about it, and But it was such a dramatic decision that it changed the whole course of the whole business. And then the Sweat family from Minneapolis bought it out, and from then on it skyrocketed. But my father, I think really enjoyed the latter part of his life probably the most, and it was a matter of making a whole new life after he was 65. And this was when he became really a designer and builder of houses, and this was in Michigan, and it was a very happy part of his life. I think he was extremely successful.
He left here and went to Indianapolis and then later to Michigan.
He went to Michigan in the summers from here for many years.
For what reason?
Well, just purely for pleasure. He loved to sail, and he would go on excursion boats from Chicago through the Great Lakes to discover what he thought would be the great place for sailing. And he discovered this place called Northport Point and decided that was the place, and bought a lot there and built a cottage. And he returned there every summer. And then after a few years in Indianapolis, he stayed in Michigan. He didn't stay during the winters. He went to Arizona, Tucson, but he really rebuilt his life in Michigan.
Not to be too personal or overly personal, but what was he doing for money from the time he left in the Depression? Did he recoup his fortunes in Indianapolis?
Well, no, he didn't. He never really recouped his fortunes to any great extent at all, but he was able to make it on his own by his building, which was why it was so remarkable.
Did he leave with any Honeywell stock, or did he have any stock or anything like that?
No.
Nothing. And of course he wasn't.
Nor
in the
did
bank
Mr.
anymore.
No. So there was really no reason for him to stay here in essence, really, because he wanted to do something. And they had to sell their house, which was that was traumatic. He had many traumatic experiences.
I would say that during the Depression that probably he wasn't alone.
Oh, this is true.
That you had to sell the beautiful house on North Wabash Street?
That's right. I think he was alone in that he was never bitter, nor did he ever have anything to say about what might have been. He just started off and made something of what he had left.
Sure, that's great.
And he did it.
How many others were there in the family besides you?
My brother,
His name was?
Edward McNamee, Edward Macy McNamee.
So, what are your childhood reminiscences and remembrances in Wabash?
Oh, they were wonderful. We had great places to play, and this area on North Wabash Street went back. The back of those lots went way down to the creek, and there was always lots of fun doing all kinds of things. And I used to play with this group of boys, mostly that my brother's friends. And Dick Sneidman, Bob Mitten, Howard Bridges, let me think. Bob LaSalle, he was older. There was quite a group. Dick Sneidman lived next door, and he was one of the great ones, the great pals.
I was, speaking of Dick Sneidman, I just saw his picture as a 18 or 19-year-old boy. that Phil Magner had taken candid shot.
Oh.
Handsome boy.
He was a very handsome boy. Very. One thing I think of in that neighborhood, my mother had an electric car. And, you know, they had to be charged. And Wabash, being hilly, really was not the exact choice for an electric car. And our electric seemed to be charging most of the time. They cast a lavender light in the garage. And I remember my mother coming out to get into this car to go to some sort of party, and backing out with the charges, with everything still plugged in.
Did she have one of the first electric cars?
I think she did.
Well, of course, you were close to the rest of the relatives also, just across the
Oh, yes, yes.
Grandma's house.
Always. We always had Christmas at our grandmother's house, and we'd go down the night before and stay all night, so we could be up at 4 in the morning. And my mother's sister lived in Indianapolis, and she and her husband had 2 children, and they always came back up here, and this was always a great reunion with all the Walters.
I think that family relationship, I think, is wonderful.
It's always been a very close family
Promoted
relationship.
it also,
Mm-hmm.
which is important.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Did you go to school here then?
I went to Wabash High School up to I went up for 2 years, and then I went to Indianapolis to Tudor Hall. And
By this time, of course, you had moved in here.
yes, that's right. And then after that, I went to a Boston School of Fine Arts in Boston, which I loved. Then had to come back because of the Depression at a much earlier time than I'd planned.
Your family was still living in Indianapolis?
Mm-hmm. They were living with my aunt and her family. They arranged this cooperative living.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had such an interest in my going to art school that he insisted on my taking lessons from Frederick Polly, who you might recognize the name, was an etcher for the Indianapolis News for many, many years. He was a fine artist. And my father had such a admiration for learning lines, and of course there's no way you can learn line better than etching. And that was a good experience. It helped me a lot. Then I went to other art schools.
What did you do then that you came back and you've been to Boston?
Well, I went back to Indianapolis, and then I was married there, and lived there 13 years after I was married in 32, and then moved to Houston, Texas.
Who did you marry?
Married Stanley Shipnes from Highland Park, Illinois.
What was he doing?
He was sent there to learn about and run the Sears store. He was the first college man at the age of 20, when he graduated from Williams, to be taken by Sears, because they were at that point just starting their retail operation. They'd always been mail order house. And General Wood was president of Sears and a personal friend of my husband, who had grown up with his children. And he was persuaded to go with, and it was a fascinating experience. He loved it.
Okay.
And then he was sent to Houston to build more stores, and we became so identified with Houston that we just couldn't leave it.
Had children? What years? What were they? What years did you have children?
We had 2 children, one a girl and one boy, and they went to school in Houston, and then our son went to preparatory school in Connecticut for 3 years. Then he went to the University of Arizona, and he went to graduate school of language. And our daughter went to preparatory school in Houston, and then to Smith College, and then was married.
Nice family.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me some of the stories that Grandma used to tell you, or your mother used to tell you about the old days, as you remember them.
Well, one story I think of was hearing about the date for my mother and father's wedding was postponed for one day because Teddy Roosevelt was coming to town. This was 1901. And my mother said everybody who would be coming to the wedding would want to see Teddy Roosevelt. And so did she, and so did my father, so they just postponed the wedding.
Very nice. When did your father die then?
In 1952.
At what age?
At 87.
And did your mother then continue to carry on after that?
Yes, she continued to go to Michigan in the summer, and then she lived with us in the wintertime after that in Texas, and became very fond of Texas, and made a very definite place for herself there. She was a remarkable person in that she had a keen interest in people and in everything. She was head of the American Red Cross here in Wabash, the First World War, and was an ardent DAR, and enjoyed the Harrison class so much, which still goes on, you know. And Helen Walter was telling me this morning that my mother told her one time that she learned everything she knew about architecture through the Harrison class, which was their project for a good many years, I think.
Did your father ever say that, or laugh about it in later life, that if he'd made a different turn, that he might be the millionaire or something? Did he ever
Oh,
allude to
certainly.
this? Yeah. And how would he usually bring these?
Well, he really didn't talk about it very much, but this would be brought up every once in a while in a very good-natured way.
It didn't irritate him?
No. It just, I'm sure it was a great disappointment, to say the least.
Well, how about his brothers then? The one that never married, what did he stay on in Wabash?
He stayed on in Wabash as a banker and living in this house across the street. And for many years alone, with an old housekeeper who was a character.
And how about there was another brother also?
And then the other brother was with the Ford meter box, and their house is is now painted a beautiful blue on Cass Street. I've been interested today in seeing the old marvelous houses in Wabash. They're being kept up. It's very exciting to see this.
They're improving them. They're air conditioning.
Yes,
That's something you'd appreciate coming from.
Yes,
Citrus.
right. It's wonderful to see them.
Who do you usually see when you get back to Wabash, or who do you particularly want to see when you get back to Wabash?
Well, I am really usually just so completely busy with all the Walter family, and I haven't been back for so many years, for a long time, that I really haven't a very close association anymore here with friends, because most of them have left. Dorothy McNamee, my sister-in-law, Dorothy McNamee, who was Dorothy Davis, who lived on Miami Street, and I was looking at that house today, was a very good friend. Dorothy Williams was a good friend. Dorothy Spinney.
Of course, you can look out the
Yeah,
window see
and
the
that,
lovely house.
I think that house is just marvelous to look at. And isn't it a happy view for you from here?
It is. It's beautiful.
And Frances Wilson, whom I used to see, I haven't seen her for a good while. But it's usually been a family reunion type of affair. Janet Jones, who is now Janet McCaffrey. And incidentally, I saw Mr. Jones, Howard Jones, walking along today and stopped the car so I could talk with him. I think he is so remarkable. He looked very natty swinging a cane and his hat and good-looking suit, and he tells me he's 96 and walks a mile a day and does calisthenics in the morning.
You've
That
heard
terrific?
about his trip to California, where he took his own food.
Oh, no.
Yes.
He told me he went to California. He took his own food?
His own food. He didn't trust him out there or something. I don't know what it was. He is going to be on tape.
I think that'd be marvelous if he
Matter of fact,
were.
we were going to do it, and he left for 6 weeks to California.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be Pete's granduncle.
That's right. Yes.
That'd be his granduncle.
Well,
Do you have any other reflections on either your days in Wabash, or your parents, or brother, or anyone else that you'd like to leave on the record, or anything that you've possibly written down even? I know Helen said that she was going to write up some genealogy for you.
well, the genealogy of on the Pauling side, I think I've mentioned, and on the Macy Goode side, and the McNamee family. This was all very, really a wonderful childhood. That it was very, very happy, and we were always doing things outdoors mostly, and there seemed to be a great activity in the winter. Of course, there was lots of skating and skiing around it, which was new at that point. They were just testing out, And then the early teenage days were great fun. That was always the struggle between parents and children wanting to go to Lucan's Lake and points around for dancing, and parents not wanting them to go.
Lucan's Lake is still there.
We drove through it yesterday, and I was aware also of the hilliness and the beauty of this country coming into here.
I don't think you appreciate home until you get away from it by a number of years.
This is right.
It's really sort of sad sometimes
Mhm.
to
That's right. I have a great desire to come back now and paint some of these houses. I do a lot of houses in my paintings, and I think really these should be recorded. There's so many great ones. And of course that courthouse is a great one too. The Canadian geese used to fly around that light and be mixed up often. Mm-hmm.
What you should see is Homer Showalter's photographs. He
I'd love to.
He has 4 or 5 albums of photographs that he just continually took from the time he was in grade school, which would be about 1900 or something like that. He's just constantly photographed the whole town over the years.
I would love to see them. I'll try and arrange to it. Would he like to?
That'd be nothing greater than for him to do something like that. Well, I can't think of anything that, unless you would like to add something else to the tape. I certainly want to thank you for taking.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and I hope I've added to your fund of information.
And this left me a very happy day, and I appreciate you taking your time.
Well, I'm happy to do it, and it's a privilege.